Right now, you're standing on land soaked in more blood than almost any other state in America. Texas, they sell you the cowboys, the oil, the big belt buckles. But underneath that myth is something far darker. Entire towns erased overnight. Mass executions carried out under white flags of surrender. Indigenous nations systematically hunted to extinction. Secrets buried so deep that even the soil remembers what the textbooks refuse to print. This is the history of Texas that nobody talks about. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why they tried so hard to keep it buried. This is State Stories. March 27, 1836. The Goliad Massacre. Over 340 Texan prisoners of war, men who had already surrendered, were marched out of Fort Defiance at dawn. They were told they were being released. Instead, Mexican soldiers opened fire at point-blank range. Those who survived the volleys were chased down with bayonets and cavalry lances. Colonel James Fannin, wounded and unable to walk, was the last to die. Shot in the face while sitting in a chair. Gene, before Texas belonged to anyone with a flag, it belonged to the Comanche. And the Comanche didn't just live here. They dominated an empire stretching from Kansas to Mexico called the Comancheria. They were arguably the greatest light cavalry force in history. But what followed was one of the most systematic campaigns of annihilation ever carried out on American soil. The U.S. Army didn't just fight the Comanche. They slaughtered their buffalo herds by the millions, starving entire nations into submission. By 1875, the last free Comanche band, led by Quanah Parker, surrendered at Fort Sill. An empire of over 20,000 people reduced to a few hundred broken survivors. Deep in the West Texas desert, near the tiny town of Marfa, something unexplainable has haunted travelers for over a century. Ghostly orbs of light, glowing, splitting, merging, vanishing, dance across the Chisos Mountains at night. The Apache believed they were the spirits of fallen warriors. Settlers in the 1880s reported them with terror. Scientists have investigated for decades and still have no definitive answer. Car headlights? Atmospheres. September 1900. The Great Galveston Hurricane. It remains the deadliest natural disaster in American history and one of the most deliberately forgotten. Between 6,000 and 12,000 people died in a single night when a Category 4 hurricane devoured the island city without warning. Entire neighborhoods were swept into the Gulf. Bodies stacked so high they had to be burned on funeral pyres that glowed for weeks. And here's what they buried deeper than the dead. The city's segregation meant black victims were forced into the most vulnerable areas. Their death toll was disproportionately catastrophic, and their names were never officially counted. In 1910, a Mexican-American teenager named Antonio Rodriguez was accused of killing a white woman in Rock Springs, Texas. He never saw a courtroom. A mob dragged him from his cell, tied him to a tree, doused him in kerosene, and burned him alive. His murder was not an isolated incident. It was part of a wave of racial terror along the Texas-Mexico border known as La Matanza, the killing time. Between 1910 and 1920, Texas Rangers and vigilante mob. Beneath the surface of modern Texas lies a network of secrets that shaped America itself. In 1901, the Spindletop oil gusher near Beaumont launched the petroleum age, but it also birthed a shadow economy of corruption, land theft, and environmental devastation that persists to this day. Entire communities of Black and Mexican landowners were swindled out of oil-rich property through forged deeds and legal intimidation. The Texas Railroad Commissions. So the next time someone tells you everything's bigger in Texas, remember that includes the lies. The buried massacres, the stolen land, the lights no one can explain, the names no one bothered to record. This isn't just Texas history. It's American history, raw and unfiltered. And this is only the beginning. State Stories is here to dig up what was buried, to speak the names that were silenced, and to tell the truth that monuments refuse to carry. If this video opened your eyes, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because next week, we're uncovering another state's darkest chapter. And trust me, you're not ready for it.